Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Coming up in this newscast, a song of hope. Meet the local choir getting national attention for giving unhoused people a sense of belonging. COVID-19 isn't the only public health crisis in San Diego. KPBS investigates the local surge in fentanyl overdoses. And a vision for our roads. SANDAG outlines a 30-year plan aimed at reducing our reliance on cars. First, we go to the South Bay, where one local city is carving out a reputation for embracing surveillance technology. What local law enforcement does with all that data is a concern for privacy advocates who say Chula Vista is now one of the most surveilled cities in the U.S. KPBS investigative reporter Amita Sharma has the story.
Chula Vista, 7 miles from the border with Mexico, has an unwelcome distinction.
On a per capita basis, they're probably the most or one of the most surveilled cities in the country.
That's Brian Hofer, executive director of the privacy advocacy group Secure Justice. He says some of that surveillance is no different than you'd find in most American cities.
Your cell phones, which are constantly pinging towers as you move around the city, revealing your location, your travel patterns and associations.
Chula Vista's border town status means the tech eyes and ears of U.S. Customs and Border Protection are also in the mix. Think advanced radar systems and surveillance towers. Here's ACLU attorney Shaw Drake.
Border residents, may never know that their information is being collected. But essentially, the government is able to put together a map of people's movements, either through times in which they're crossing the border itself, but also traveling through border communities.
Add in the Chula Vista Police Department's own tools, and there is a whole lot of tech keeping watch. The city has invested in license plate readers and low-flying drones that serve as first responders.
He's just going to launch and go straight up.
Here's Chula Vista Police Captain Eric Thunberg.
It can fly as the crow flies. It's not reliant on city streets. It can give us essentially live view of what's occurring to help us plan our approach so that we can make the smartest approach, so that we don't go in there and make the situation any worse.
Chula Vista has come under fire for what it gathers through police technology and how it shares that data. Last year, news broke that Chula Vista PD had shared data collected from its 4 automated license plate readers with immigration officials.
It really did break community trust.
Human rights activist Pedro Rios says the data sharing contradicted Chula Vista's designation as a welcoming city for immigrants and ran counter to state law,
which says that resources from local jurisdictions shouldn't be used to provide immigration enforcement information that could then lead to arrests and detentions and deportations.
Thunberg is hoping the community will give the department a chance at redemption, a process he says will require police to embrace criticism and engage in dialogue with residents.
We can't do our jobs if they don't trust us.
He says the Chula Vista PD stopped sharing the data directly with ICE and Border Patrol earlier this year. The department now says it only shares license plate data for specific investigations with California law enforcement agencies. Chula Vista Mayor Mary Salas is defensive, or in her words, a mama bear when it comes to police and technology. She is certain her city's officers don't misuse data. She bristles at the label surveillance. Salas says the devices are vital to their work. As she sees it, the department is understaffed.
We don't buy just a shiny object to have it. Everything that we adopt is for a purpose, and it's been thoroughly vetted.
The city is working on plans to create an oversight panel for police use of technology. Ricardo Medina, who sits on the city's Human Relations Commission, wants it to include civil rights lawyers and tech experts.
There needs to be a body that is independent, that has an opportunity to interrogate, to probe, to look at empirical evidence, cost-benefit analysis, and anecdotal data as well.
Captain Thunberg wants the input.
and we'll be a part of that and be a player.
Once that body is created early next year, it is expected to help draft a privacy policy for tech use. But concerns are likely to linger because Chula Vista PD just built a real-time operations center where all of the city's policing data will be assembled in one place. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
And that is the first of a two-part special investigative report by Amita Sharma. You can read more and watch part 2 at kpbs.org. This is a busy week for deciding how our communities will look and grow in the years ahead. For one part of San Diego, it's a long time coming. KPBS Race and Equity reporter Cristina Kim tells us about the step forward for Barrio Logan, where neighbors hope the future will bring some environmental justice.
Barrio Logan, the heart of San Diego's Chicano and Latino community, could soon have a new community plan that lays out where homes and businesses can be built in the future. The San Diego City Council unanimously approved the plan today. It's been 43 years since the plan was last updated. Councilmember Vivian Moreno, who represents Barrio Logan, says it shouldn't have taken this long.
The adoption of the Barrio Logan Community Plan update is a major accomplishment. The residents of Barrio Logan have long desired to have a modern community plan, and the fruit of their labor is before us today.
Segregated and redlined in the early 20th century, only to have freeways and bridges tear through its center in the 1960s, Barrio Logan now has some of the highest rates of asthma in the state. For longtime activists and residents, the new plan is a way of building a more equitable future and addressing that past. Naomi Sanchez grew up and lives in Barrio Logan.
It does not make up for all of the years of injustice, but it's definitely a better step moving forward for our communities and our future generations.
The extensive plan includes changing the zoning for a 65-acre area in the community. This would create a transitional buffer zone between where people live and heavy industrial activities. In 2013, an updated community plan containing the buffer zone was approved, but then maritime businesses funded a referendum the next year, which scrapped the entire plan. This time, however, the maritime industry is on board.
I am really happy. This has been a long time coming. We in industry have put forth a lot of effort to ensure that we get to this point. While the residents are extremely proud of what's the outcome, so are we.
And for the first time in the city's history, the new plan also contains anti-displacement measures, including requiring 15% affordable housing in new developments and providing priority to new housing for Barrio Logan residents. Something that Sanchez, a Barrio Logan resident, knows will impact her and others in the community.
It definitely will give people the tranquility of knowing they're going to have somewhere to live next month.
Mark Steele is the chair of the Barrio Logan Community Planning Group. He credits the plan's ability to move forward with the agreement reached just last year.
Where we are today is a result of a successful negotiation between the Environmental Health Coalition, the shipbuilding industry, ship repair industry, and the Barrio Logan Planning Group to create a memorandum of understanding that outlined all the details of uses that were allowed and not allowed in the transitions.
The City Council will review the plan again in January before sending it to the Coastal Commission sometime next year. But even still, for those that have been working for years for a new community plan, today's vote is a cause for celebration. Cristina Kim, KPBS News.
Barrio Logan is far from the only community dealing with gentrification. Earlier this week, Cristina Kim hosted a KPBS community conversation on this topic with voices from across San Diego. You can stream it anytime at the KPBS YouTube page. Elected leaders from across San Diego County make up the region's planning agency known as SANDAG. On Friday, they voted to support a 30-year vision to reduce San Diego's reliance on cars to get around. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains the plan and why it's become so controversial.
Evening rush hour is starting on the I-5 freeway in Barrio Logan. That's where I meet Carolina Martinez, Climate Justice Director for the nonprofit Environmental Health Coalition. The damage this freeway has caused Barrio Logan is palpable, from the high levels of toxic air pollution to the deafening noise.
The regional plan is trying to undo the history of disinvestment in communities like Barrio Logan. And we see frequency increases in the transit system, 24-hour service, a study to improve the blue line that goes to the South Bay, as well as bathrooms and essential services that are really key in making the transit system successful.
So big picture, this is about reimagining the future of transportation in San Diego.
The mastermind behind the transportation plan is Hassan Ikrada, executive director of the county's planning agency, SANDAG. He acknowledges the plan is expensive, costing $163 billion over 3 decades. But he says there's a lot the plan would pay for, including new high-speed subway lines from National City to Sorrento Valley and El Cajon to Hillcrest.
If you decide not to drive to certain areas, or if you decide to own 1 car instead of 2, this system will provide that, fulfill that vacuum for you, not having that second car, or having a car at all in some cases.
Among the biggest changes compared to previous transportation plans is how this one treats highways. SANDAG has abandoned projects that would widen freeways, instead opting to convert existing lanes and freeway shoulders into new managed lanes, open to carpools, buses, and solo drivers willing to pay a toll. Ikrada says past leaders weren't being honest when they claimed expanding freeways would relieve congestion. That's because of the well-documented phenomenon of latent demand, when the wider freeway attracts more drivers and congestion returns.
Expanding freeways, it's been proven again and again, here and somewhere else in the world, that just by continuing to expand with latent demand kicking in, doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not a solution.
Critics have blasted the plan on multiple fronts, from its relatively high cost to the nixing of those freeway widenings. But the sharpest criticism has been targeted at the so-called road user charge. Motorists would pay 2 cents to SANDAG for every mile they drive in the county. It wouldn't happen until 2030, the same year public transit would become free. Ikrada understands the opposition, but says the policy is useful on 2 fronts. It raises money to pay for the infrastructure and helps SANDAG achieve targets set by the state to reduce driving.
The most cost-effective strategy in this vision we have to reduce greenhouse gas emission, it's the road user charge.
Colin Parent heads the nonprofit Circulate San Diego. He supports most of what's in SANDAG's plan, especially the relatively cheap and easy transit improvements, like rapid bus routes.
And that is likely to mean more frequency, so people can get where they're going faster. They don't have to wait as long for the bus. And hopefully it can also include some protected bus-only facilities to make sure that the bus is not caught up in regular traffic, especially during now when there is a lot of traffic in this rush hour.
Where Parent is skeptical is in SANDAG's funding strategy. He fears the push for expensive projects like commuter rail lines decades in the future will be a distraction from the need for solutions now. And if voters say no to new taxes that would fund the projects, he says SANDAG needs a plan B.
And so we want to be optimistic with our revenue, but not so optimistic that we're planning for things that we could never hope to actually build.
Key leaders on SANDAG's board of directors last week came out against the 2 cent per mile fee on drivers. That means even if the transportation plan is approved, SANDAG will almost immediately have to start revising it. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And speaking of big projects, the new stadium going up in Mission Valley now has a name. SDSU is calling it Aztec Stadium, but from now on it will be known as Snapdragon Stadium. Qualcomm is behind the 15-year, $45 million deal. Final approval is needed from the state. Snapdragon is the name of the San Diego company's mobile platform. The stadium will be ready to open in time for next summer, in time for next Aztecs football season. Here are the most popular stories this week at kpbs.org, and you've already seen one of them. Amita Sharma's investigation into Chula Vista's surveillance program is getting a lot of attention from online readers. Catalytic converter theft is a rising concern for car owners. Tanya Thorne shows us how it's playing out in North County. And questions over Jennifer Campbell's staff and their role in redistricting after the city council member lost her leadership position this week. Fentanyl is a deadly trifecta. It is cheap, it can be easily disguised as a different drug, and it is 50 times more potent than heroin. KPBS's Katie Stiegel says the numbers show the challenge health officials face as fentanyl overdoses have more than quadrupled locally since 2018.
There really is no safety net out here on the streets.
Emmy McClarty survived homelessness and addiction, and she wanted her best friend Josh Palmer to be able to say the same. But each push from her was met with an empty promise. He wasn't ready to get clean. Her last words to him were that she'd see him later.
There was always going to be a see you later. Always was supposed to be a see you later. And I'm not going to see him later.
Palmer died of a fentanyl overdose in March on the steps of the Fraternal Order of Eagles, just off the bustling University Avenue in Hillcrest. Data from the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office shows at least 446 people died in 2020 with fentanyl in their system. That's 4 times higher than in 2018. It's a problem nationally as well. According to the New York Times, more than 100,000 people died of drug overdoses within the first 12 months of the pandemic. That's 30% more than the previous year. 9 months into the year, and already more people have died with fentanyl in their systems than last year. By the end of August 2021, at least 534 people have died with fentanyl in their system. Even more people are expected to die by year's end, says Dr. Luke Bergman. He's the director of San Diego County's Behavioral Health Services.
It's really hard to say when the epidemic curve is going to turn. We are continuing to see increases. It's very difficult to control supply, right? Particularly with fentanyl, because it's so strong, it's odorless, it's colorless, it's very easy to transport as an illicit narcotic. It's very easy to hide in other substances because of that. So it represents a challenge.
The disheartening truth is these deaths are mostly avoidable because the antidote, naloxone, is easy to access. But misinformation about the drug and stigmas about addiction prevent people from helping someone who's overdosing. So says Dr. Ryan Marino, a Cleveland-based addiction medical specialist.
People don't deserve to suffer or die, anything like that, just because they use drugs. And so to me, this is just more stigma that kind of hurts people with substance use disorders and addiction, and even people who just casually use drugs, and prevents them from getting appropriate treatment.
Misinformation can also impact the loved ones of those who die of fentanyl overdoses. Diane Hotchkiss lost her husband, Derek, to a $15 hit of fentanyl in 2019. But she says the man she knew was already gone when he died.
I realized, though, he was too far gone. His personality was gone.
When her husband overdosed, Hotchkiss vividly remembers calling 911, hoping paramedics could help.
They were the ones that let me know, like, hey, you have a 1-year-old here. Like, if he touches it, he will die instantly.
She and Dominic left their home the day Derek died and never returned. Marino said the team did not have the correct information.
Any drugs, near an infant can be problematic, but it's not something that is going to get into your body unless you are injecting or snorting it. It doesn't just cross through the skin. It isn't just getting into the air.
Since a Democratic majority took over the Board of Supervisors, Bergman with the county says they've shifted their treatment methods towards a model to reduce the likelihood of harm for drug users. That can include naloxone, clean tools to inject with, primary care, shelter, and showers.
The spirit of it is getting people what they need and what they want, even if they're not in a particular moment able to commit to a trajectory towards abstinence.
The county also created community harm reduction teams specifically for the homeless community and plan to expand them countywide.
We're doing everything we can to make sure that people are getting access to the formal clinical care that we do know over the long haul reduces likelihood of overdose death and other harms associated with substance misuse.
Those changes came too late for people like Josh Palmer and the Hotchkiss family. Whether they make a dent in the number of overdoses in future years remains to be seen. Katie Stiegel, KPBS News.
An online summit will be held on December 16th to address the dangers of fentanyl for local middle and high school students. It's called SD Needs to Know, organized by the DA's office, the Board of Education, and county supervisors.
Hi, I'm John Decker. Thank you for watching Evening Edition on KPBS. Now more than ever, local news is essential to our democracy. And KPBS is committed to delivering local news in San Diego and the Imperial Valley. Evening Edition, along with our other services on radio, digital, and podcasts, is how our news team delivers the news to you. How can we do it? With a passion for accurate storytelling and a commitment to excellence in journalism. But most importantly, we do it with your support, our members, our viewers. If you've already donated to KPBS, then we thank you very much for your continued support. If you haven't had a chance to donate, now is a great time to show how much you appreciate the news we deliver. So please go online and choose a level, pick a gift at kpbs.org, or call or text DONATE at 1-800-576-5727, and thank you.
You might have seen them on America's Got Talent. Voices of Our City is a choir dedicated to providing a sense of purpose and belonging to those who have experienced homelessness. Kitty Alvarado tells us about some of the lives this group has touched.
Take me to the afflicted ones. I'm going to invite you up to sing. Not yet, not yet. Take me to the lonely ones.
You'd never know it, but if you look beyond the tents of people living on the street in downtown San Diego, you'll find a little corner space that's filled with love and music.
Hey, oh, I am.
When I walked into the choir, first of all, I felt accepted, loved. I felt loved.
You know Dasher and
Ayo Ridiander came upon the Voices of Our City choir by chance 2 years ago when she was living on the street and desperately looking for a place to charge her phone.
And somebody just kind of put their arm around me and just kind of led me in here, and I couldn't believe it. There's a choir. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, it's a choir. I was like, how do you get to do this? Just have a seat.
That day, she became a member of the choir. It's a diverse group of people with one thing in common: homelessness. Every member of this choir is or was homeless. Ridiander says she feels fortunate to be living in a shelter now and grateful to be a part of this musical family.
I always wished I had this love like other families do. And it didn't happen until I found the choir. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. This is when I learned that I'm worthy of love too. I'm important too. Because I didn't used to feel that.
Rest here in my garden.
And that's exactly why Steph Johnson, the co-founder and creative director of Voices of Our City, started this choir. She says she sees miracles happen through music.
When you create a space, a safe space for people to be individuals, magic happens.
And that magic has taken them to unexpected places.
When we started the choir about 5 years ago, we wanted to bring this music. We wanted to bring the space of good food and good music and a safe place for people to be. Just wanting to treat people with respect and dignity, you know? Never knowing that we were going to become an in-demand performance ensemble, okay? Never knowing that we would be like on America's Got Talent, or that we would start a publishing company, that we're writing our own songs. We have our own studio now. We never knew that we would become this vehicle, this catalyst for change.
Through their performances, the nonprofit raises money that provides resources and support. Kaya Reuter, who was homeless as a child, says that help, plus the music, do more than nourish the body. They heal the soul.
When you're here, you're accepted. You're whole. You're loved. You're wanting to sing, and you get the resources to eat. You get the resources to sleep, and you get the resources to just be you authentically.
We've helped, through our case management and support and resources, we've helped like 80 people move off the street and into housing. But that's a piece of it, but a person has to feel seen and heard and be treated with respect and dignity and be an individual, be themselves again. And so what you just saw and what happens every week when we come together to sing is that everybody's voice is heard.
And when they leave, they take a little of that magic with them.
To navigate some heavy, ugly thing that they have to go through, but they have hope and joy in their step.
It's like once you feel it, you can't unfeel it, and you come back. You come back because you want to feel good, you want to feel complete.
There is a blue one that can't accept. And you can experience some of that magic too by attending their fundraiser and concert Hope for the Holidays on December 5th. Reuters says on this night, no matter who you are or what you're going through, everyone belongs to each other.
The moment you hear like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you just like, your face lights up. Everybody of all ages gets happy. You see the animals happy, the kids are happy, and like you forget who you are in your story, and you just get lost in the music. And I think that's the beauty of it, because it brings us all together, brings that oneness and that love for just magic.
In downtown San Diego, Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
And that holiday concert can be watched at the Voices of Our City YouTube page. We hope you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.